Well, Dewey's doing something a little different today. He's not out roaming. He's actually in his little makeshift studio in his home. As you can tell, my budget is very low on YouTube, based on my little corner that I've carved out to do this video. I'll probably do a couple more videos in this format as well. I have a couple things to do around the house today, but I wanted to touch on some current events that I normally do. But yesterday, it was widespread. It was reported widely that Chrystia Freeland accepted a position in the Ukraine to be Vladimir Zelensky's economic advisor. Now, this came as not a shock. It didn't come as a shock to me, but this came as a bit of a, little bit of an outrage to the people that aren't particularly fond of the Liberal government. Now, how can a sitting member of Parliament take a job within another country, a foreign country? But this is actually the second position she's accepted. She's also accepted the position at Oxford University to administer the Rhodes Scholarship. I think she's the CEO of the Rhodes Trust. So I think that starts sometime this year as well. But this most recent acceptance for her to go work for the Ukraine, like I said, doesn't come as a shock to me. It's going along the lines I expect that the Liberal government would do. Just before Christmas, Zelensky flew down to Mar-a-Lago in Florida to visit with President Trump to discuss the upcoming peace agreement with Russia and the Ukraine. But in doing so, Zelensky's plane stopped in Halifax to refuel. And at that point, Carney met Zelensky at the Halifax airport, set up a little phony fake Canadian office there, putting a bunch of Canadian flags, which Carney has no use for, to be honest with you. But at that impromptu news conference, it was put across that Carney was going to give him another $2.5 billion of Canadian money. And then all this knowing that Zelensky's going to negotiate peace talks with Trump. Now, you could say, well, the $2.5 billion was set aside for rebuilding Ukraine, and I don't know all the particulars of it, but I'm sure it's under that guise. But the actuality of it is that it's just more money laundering that Carney and his handlers and his cronies are shipping or funneling through the Ukraine. Now, we know that weirdo Zelensky, the cross-dressing weirdo, coked-out patsy that he is, he's not taking all the money that is being laundered through his country and shipping it back to where it needs to be shipped. He's squandering it. By all reports, he is a wealthy man. He owns mansions. He owns a yacht. Right now, his right-hand man is under investigation for $100 million in misappropriation. So my take on sending Chrystia Freeland over there is to keep an eye on the redistribution of Canadian taxpayer money. Don't jam it all up your nose. He's not gonna have big Coke parties and squander it. And if he does, it'll be Fraulein Freeland involved in it as well. But you rest assured, they're sending that Patsy Freeland over there to make sure that the money is dispersed to the appropriate channels, and it's not to rebuild the Ukraine, okay? And if it is, it's something to do with companies or financial assets that Carney or Brookfield Asset Management owns. So that's all smoke and mirrors. Chrystia Freeland going over to help. She's not helping nothing but her Nazi communist handlers. Now, at the same time, right now as I speak, Carney, I believe, is in France. I think he's in Paris. But he did go over to speak to Zelensky about fostering to keep the relationship going between Canada and the Ukraine. Now, basically, what Carney is the head of the British Empire outside of the UK. Now, you can say that King Charles is the head of he is the head of the British Empire, but Carney is the chosen one. He is the one that has to ensure that the Commonwealth countries stand a united front against Donald Trump. Donald Trump is trying to collapse the British economic system, and the British economic system is geared against the United States, and that's what this all boils down to. Carney is the globalist banker. Carney is the governor of the Bank of England. Carney was the governor of the Bank of Canada. Carney has all these inroads, and he's been groomed for many years to go against the eventuality of a Donald Trump. And when Donald Trump became the 47th president again last year, they had to activate Carney pretty much the same day. Trudeau announced his resignation on January 6th, the day Trump was being sworn in. So then the ball got rolling with regards to putting Carney in. Trudeau got him to where they needed to get, based on all the dimwit lefties that thought he was good looking and he meant well for the country. You were duped. The real ringer was Carney, and he was in Ottawa. Well, he was figuratively in Ottawa since 2020 as an advisor to Justin Trudeau, where he didn't have to, or he let on he wasn't accepting a paycheck, which is nonsense. But when you don't accept a paycheck, you work pro bono for the government. I guess you don't have to answer any questions. So basically, Carney has been involved in our budgets and our finance since 2020, including freezing bank accounts at the trucker convoy. He was directly responsible for that. Excuse me. So Carney's over in Europe right now, drumming up a plan to come back and combat Trump. Trump, as we know, just went in and plucked Maduro's. The people on the left say he was kidnapped. He wasn't kidnapped. He was an international criminal. Maduro's was a known narco terrorist, and that's what he's been deemed as by the United States. Not only that, he owed millions and millions of dollars to American oil companies. He allowed China, he allowed Iran, he allowed Russia to operate within his country illegally, to set up communist, socialist networks. So Trump going in and taking Maduro's and putting him on trial for narco-terrorism and weapons offenses is to circumnavigate China and Russia getting fully control of Venezuela. It's a big 3D chess game that Trump is playing. One is to get rid of British imperialism. Two is to nullify or reduce the activity that China and Russia and Iran as well was in Venezuela, to reduce their operations so close to the United States borders. Now, the next country that Trump is going to install regime change in is Cuba. Cuba's on the brink of collapse right now, with Venezuela going back to or reverting back to some sort of semblance of democracy. That is going to affect Cuba as well. Trump wants to push the Russians and China out of Cuba as well, too close to the United States border. And you're going to see where I'm going with this. So Carney's over there saying, what are we going to do? Trump is gaining ground, and he's gaining ground very quick. So Macron and Keir Starmer, very weak men. King Charles, he'd rather not be involved in this. And I don't know what his involvement is, but who knows? Basically, it's Carney that is rallying the troops against Trump and the United States. Now, for you Antifa, poison dart frog hairdo types that are going down and swapping in your Palestinian flags for Venezuelan flags now, you're not going to like hearing that because you want to usher in communism. The same as Carney. Carney's a communist. So he's out there rallying Keir Starmer, the communist, Francois Macron, the communist, even Anthony Albanese in Australia. They're all cut from the same communist cloth. But Trump is going at light speed now. 2026 is going to be a very pivotal year in the United States and in Canada. The midterms are coming up in November, and Trump has a very good chance of losing the midterms, losing the House, and which will make him a lame duck president for the next 2 years. And that's what Carney and the European Union, the World Economic Forum, and China and Russia are, well, maybe not so much Russia, but China are hoping for. They're hoping that Trump becomes a lame duck president so they can come back in and do the same thing they did with Sleepy Joe Autopen, which was just a bought and paid for communist as well. All those people are. So Carney will come back today, tomorrow, whatever, and he'll have done nothing to benefit this country. He's only hurting it because every time he goes over to Europe, Trump gets more and more pissed off and is going to put more sanctions on us. The Venezuelan oil is going to take about 3 years before it affects our Alberta oil. So that's not a huge thing. But we have to get on board with tapping our energy resources. Or in 2 or 3 years, when they rebuild the infrastructure, if that happens in Venezuela, there's already a military uprising there. I'm not saying the U.S. has boots on ground, but I'm sure they have advisors. CIA's there. CIA operators are there without a doubt. Special forces. But that country is very unstable, and their oil is very difficult oil to mine and to extract out of the ground and to transport. Not so dissimilar, like I said in one of my other videos, to Alberta oil. It's very thick, heavy oil, and you need you need years of infrastructure to manufacture, produce it, and to ship it. And they are there to a high level, but not where they need to be. And that's where the United States has to go in there and rebuild the infrastructure. Now, Carney and Trump's relationship, I still haven't wrapped my head around that. Obviously, Trump got Carney installed as prime minister, was a big player in that, with these liberal elbows up Trump derangement syndrome. These people here in Canada, these very weak boomers and the Antifa types and the liberal Karen types that have such a hatred for Trump. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what is happening in our country. It's all Trump's fault. That's nonsense, and it's killing this country. This is going to lead me into my next point. The Conservative Leadership Review is coming up at the end of this month with Pierre Poilievre. The mainstream media has been attacking him for months and months, which I've said in my videos. They don't want Pierre Poilievre dealing very effectively with Carney in question period. Carney's never in question period anyways. He'd just rather jet set around and try to rally up the troops to back up his pathetic ass. So they've done everything in their power, the mainstream communist media, to oust Pierre Poilievre, to build that momentum. But he isn't going anywhere. And what the Liberal government has done is they've paid and they've bribed two conservatives across the aisle. Chris D'Entremont and Michael Ma. Michael Ma is a Chinese Communist Party plant anyway, so he ran as a conservative because that riding in the east part of Toronto, that was a conservative riding. He had a better chance of winning it running as a conservative, but he was a liberal all along. Well, he was a communist all along. And Chris D'Entremont, we don't know what this dandy's all about. This dandy's just a turncoat traitor, so he crossed the aisle. So this gentleman by the name of Scott Anderson, he's a member of Parliament for Vernon Lake Country. He's out in BC. And he just put out this scathing letter with regards to what the Liberals are doing to the Conservatives and what they specifically done to him. Now, I'm not going to read this letter. I'm going to put it up on the screen. And I'll leave it up there for quite some time. I'll put it over here. And you can read it. It's a long letter. And if you don't want to read it, well, I could easily read it for you and go through it, and already some people have on other YouTube channels. I know David from Moose on the Loose has read it verbatim. It's not that I can't read it. I'll let you read it. You want to pause the video and read it? By all means. But it entails that the Liberals are being very, very underhanded, and they're trying to undermine the parliamentary system in this country. It borders on treason, in my estimation. And he goes on to rip them. So I'm very glad that Scott Anderson, who I didn't even know prior to this, I'm very glad he came forth and he put together a very detailed letter with regards to what that fork-tongued lizard Mark Carney is doing to lure aisle crossers. Now, Christia Freeland is going to resign. She hasn't said a date when. So that's going to knock one member of Parliament back on the Liberals. Then it's Nate Erskine-Smith as well has voiced his opinion with regards to possibly running for the Ontario provincial Liberal leadership to run against Doug Ford. Now, I don't know where that stands right now, but from when me doing this video, I believe he's still a member of Parliament. But if them two MPs resign, they have to have by-elections. Now, MP Nate Erskine-Smith, he's the MP for Beaches, East York. I'm assuming that's a Liberal stronghold. I know that Christia Freeland's riding of University Rosedale, you could put a red rock in there and they'd vote for it. Because basically that's all that Christia Freeland is anyway. She's just, vote red. And it doesn't matter who they put there. So that that riding is in no jeopardy of being turned to conservative, and I'm assuming the same for Nate Erskine Smith's riding of Beaches East York. So, but they will have to have a by-election. But in the meantime, that will knock 2 seats back in Carney's cabinet, or in Carney's caucus. So he's at 170 now, and he's 171 for majority. That'll knock him back to 168. So I would have to assume that Carney is literally going after every conservative that he thinks remotely will have a chance to cross. Now, how is he doing that? How would you lure someone from the conservatives to the liberals and to look like the biggest piece of shit that ever walked the face of Canada? How would you do that? What? How? Offer him a cabinet position? No. It's offering them generational wealth. Where are they getting this money from? They're getting this money from the World Economic Forum coffers, which is highly funded through China, and which is highly funded through a vast network of tax skimming operations in Canada. That's how it's being funded. Okay. Now, Brookfield Asset Management, or whatever, or the 600 other companies that Carney has a hand in. I'm sure many of those companies raise money to directly pay clandestine operations, such as luring MPs across the aisle, such as paying the same beta feminized males, the same masculine females at these at these Palestinian rallies, Black Lives Matter rallies, all the same, at the LGBTQ, waving the LGBTQ flags at the rallies. They're all the same agent provocateurs, chaos actors that travel between demonstrations. There's a meme going around where it's a sign saying, trade in your Palestinian flag for your Venezuelan flags. And I'll put that up on the screen. And so basically, you got these same professional agent provocateurs that are paid by the Liberal Communist Party, paid by the Liberal government, putting down their Palestinian flag and waving a Venezuelan flag. Free Maduro's, free the narco-terrorist tyrant, free him. Because they're all the same. Maduro's is a communist. So are all these people protesting. They're not protesting under people being massacred in the Gaza. They're not protesting under Donald Trump actually kidnapping narco-terrorists. They don't give a shit about that. They want communism in this country. It's a communist movement. They just pick up a different flag, the flag du jour. Put up the Venezuelan flag in your profile pics when you have zero skin in the game. You never even had Venezuelan food. You don't know anyone Venezuelan, but now all of a sudden you want to rally against Donald Trump to free Maduro's, and what he did was breaking international laws. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's communism. They're ushering in communism. So, anyhow, I'm getting emotionally charged here, which I sometimes do. But here's Trump's game plan. Trump's game plan is to flush out Chinese, Russia, Iranian influence in Venezuela. His next country is going to be Cuba. He's going to go liberate Cuba because that country is on the verge of collapse, and he says it, and we all know it. I've never been to Cuba. I talked to friends that go to Cuba. You can't even get ketchup. You have to drink a certain beer. You can't get Canadian liquor. One hotel won't have chicken. It's ridiculous. Who'd want to go there on a vacation because you got nice sandy beaches? No. If you gave me a villa, the best villa in Cuba for a month, I wouldn't even entertain going there. I'd go out and play in a snowbank out west. I'm not even lying. So Cuba's going to be next. Now, people are saying possibly that he's going to put ground forces in Iran. This is Trump putting ground forces in Iran, U.S. ground forces. I hope he doesn't do that. But there is grumblings of that. But anyhow, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now, the mainstream media is building up momentum with regards to if Trump can go into Venezuela and steal the president, what's from stopping Trump from coming up to Canada and taking Carney? Now, I would love to see that. I really would. Because Carney has a lot of similarities in his mindset as Nicolas Maduro's, okay? They're both on the same page. Trump, about a month and a half ago, deemed fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. And he's been saying, since he took office again for the 47th presidency, that Canada was a major player in the distribution of fentanyl, okay? That rhetoric had subsided for months, but it just came up again. Trump has said again that Canada, and he kind of put it on the back, like when he was talking about Venezuela and Cuba and Mexico. But he mentioned Canada in the same breath as Mexico and Venezuela with regards to fentanyl distribution. So people are also saying that he's going to go in and attack the cartels. He's gonna take the head off the snake. He's going to take out the cartels. Gloria Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, has denounced him going in and taking Maduro's as well. And any sort of talk of Trump going in with regards to taking out the cartels, she always has strong opposition towards, because she is the cartels. The cartels put her there. Okay. Now Trump pretended like he had a half decent relationship with Sheinbaum, and like I said, the relationship with Trump and Carney, I don't even know what the F's going on there. Help me out with that in the comment section. But he's got to get rid of the Chinese and Russian influence so close to his border. Chinese drugs are being pumped into Mexico, back into the United States, killing people, 300,000 people. Same from Canada, through the port of Vancouver, fentanyl's coming in. Sam Cooper outlined that. Look him up. And so Trump is hinting and alluding the possibility of him taking military action in Canada. And I wouldn't blame him if he did. China has encroached in this country. It's obviously he can't have that. Trump can't have that. China right on his border. Okay, we know the Buddhists out in PEI, they're taking that province over on the eastern part of Canada, and we know that they're shipping precursor chemicals for fentanyl through the west coast, and we have 1.5 to 2 million Chinese scattered all over the place. Okay, so don't think Trump doesn't know this. You know, if a low-level knuckle dragger like me can put it across, I'm sure he knows exactly what's going on, and far worse. If we actually knew what was going on, there'd be mass chaos in the streets right now. So, anyhow, I'm going to wrap the video up. 5 years ago, you asked me if the United States running Canada would have been a good idea. I would have told you to go, you know what. But now, I don't, like I said before in many of my videos, I don't see a choice. I'd rather have the States than China, okay? No, I don't want anything to do with Chinese communists. You know, it's bad enough we got Carney as their representative and representing the dirty European Union, propping up NATO, or not NATO, well, NATO too, but propping up the United Nations, using them as a tool, using the European Union as a tool, the CPP, Chinese Communist Party, has bought the Liberal Party. They are corrupted. Anyhow, my first video in my butchered studio. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Any comments, leave them in the comment section. I'll get back to you.